welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I get a treat today. I'm not going to be doing Sudoku for a change. This puzzle on the screen is a pencil puzzle, a logic problem. It's called Distant Relatives, and it's by Agent. And what I can tell you is, to get a pencil puzzle featured on Cracking the Cryptic nowadays, it has to be so unbelievably good, because we get an enormous number of Sudoku variants submitted to us literally every day. So you can imagine our testers are wading through a mountain of brilliant puzzles trying to find the very best Sudoku variant they can possibly find. So for a pencil puzzle to sort of come along and strut its stuff and say, well, I'm better than any of those Sudoku variants, is seriously impressive. But this one apparently cuts the mustard, and it's by Agent, who is in a purple patch of form. And it's a fillomino variant, so hopefully, I think some of you will have done fillomino before. Certainly if you've been following the channel, you will have seen me attempt fillomino. It's got a little twist in it, but apparently it is magnificent. I had a look on Logic Masters Germany, and basically the great and the good of the solving community have done this puzzle, and they say two things about it. It is unbelievably clever and also very approachable, which is a rather splendid combination. So I'll read you the rules in just a moment or two. We've got an example as well to have a look at, so there should be no confusion once we've studied that. Right, what can I tell you about today? Well, we've got our Kickstarter going on, of course. This has been running for about a week now, and this is to make Cracking the Cryptic's Greatest Hits Volume 2 our second book. So if you fancy getting a hold of a copy of the book, and I commend it to you, it will be one, I can promise you, it'll be one of the top two sort of logic puzzle books that's ever been made, and hopefully it will be even better than our first book. That is our current absolute intention, and I think well, I think it will be, because I just think the puzzles are going to be so extraordinary. But yes, if you'd like to get a copy, there's a link to the Kickstarter on the screen now or underneath in the video description. So that's one of the things going on. Next, let's talk about Patreon, where we've released a bonus for our patrons yesterday, which is an incredible classic Sudoku by Jovial and Shye. They put their heads together to create a bamboozling classic Sudoku, and I will tell you how bamboozling it is when I reveal that well, basically, it went live yesterday evening at about 7:30 UK time, 7:30 PM, and we have some of the best solvers in the world on our as patrons of the channel, and we have thousands of patrons as well. So it's a big audience, and so far we have received one solution guide. So the competition is, you have to send in your solution guide to how to solve the puzzle logically, and we've had one in. That's all, which gives you an idea of the sheer devilishness that Shye and Jovial have incorporated into the puzzle. If you put it into a computer solver, it's comedy. I put it into Andrew Stewart's Sudoku solver, and it said something like, no progress is possible logically to solve the puzzle, and yet it does have a logical solution, just one that's not easy to find. So if you fancy having a crack at one of the hardest classic Sudokus probably in existence, but one where you know that there is a trick that if you spot it you'll be able to do it, then definitely try that puzzle. You won't be disappointed. And yeah, if you're working on your solution guide, you don't have much to beat yet. So there's every hope, and the competition, by the way, is running till the end of October. Next, I need to read out more of you who've solved the Duality Sudoku Skunkworks Sudoku hunt on Patreon. So very well done to John Reed, to Esteban de la Canal, Rene Ernst, Anders Sorensen, Lena Shuren, I want to say, I might be getting your name wrong, Lena, I'm sorry if I am, Leonardo Trigiani, William Callan, Steve Swingle, Oystein Lehorg. That is not an easy name to pronounce. I hope, Oystein, I haven't muffed your name up too badly. James Hines, Real Deal Cadil. Now that that is quite a name, and that makes me think, wouldn't it be brilliant if Sudoku solvers sort of had names like Thomas the Hitman Hearns or Marvellous Marvin Hagner, Real Deal Cadeel, Scotty Too Hottie. Anyway, Jordan Lake, Nosferatiel, Simon Sloth or Sloth, and Kevin Collins. You've all got it right. Very well done. And I need to stop laughing about names, solving names. But there are some birthdays as well. So James, from your wife Jackie. Jackie tells us she hears our voices every day. I'm sorry about that, Jackie, but Jason apparently likes the channel. And Jason, we hope you have a brilliant birthday with lots of cake. Mark de Jong, you've turned 35 today, and you don't like cake, but you're having lots of Ethiopian food instead. I'm not sure that's a surrogate for cake, my friend, but I hope you have a good time. And Sarah, you've turned 32, and I know this because your husband Craig wrote to us, and he tells me that today you're in Disney World in Florida with your 2 daughters. Well, I hope you have a wonderful time. The only story I've heard about Disney World recently was a friend of mine, John, who was going to take his family to Disney World as well. And they booked it up, and then COVID happened, so they had to cancel it, and they rebooked it, and then lockdown happened again, so they had to cancel that, and they rebooked it, and then it got to the point where they were about to go on holiday, and John realised that one of the passports had expired, so they had to cancel it again, and they booked. They booked to go again, and they ordered a new passport, and the new passport arrived, and the dog ate it. So they still have not been. I think that they are due to go any moment now, but it's a trip that's been a long time coming. And John, if you are there, I hope you have a good time. I hope the dog has allowed you to go. Anyway, one more birthday, which is Tobias, from your girlfriend Sophie over there in Sweden. And I hear, Tobias, that you are one of our biggest fans, which we're delighted to hear. And we hope that you have a suitably splendid day today with lots of cake. Do I have anything else to tell you? I don't think I do. So let's get on with distant relatives and see what Agent has concocted for us today. And I will read you the rules. Oh, and actually what I should do is find the example. Let's find the example so we can look at that at the same time we're reading the rules and try and understand what's going on. So the rules are as follows. Divide the grid into regions and enter into each cell the size of its region, i.e. how many cells large that region is. So you can see we've got a blank grid on the left and a completed grid on the right. And if you look at, say, the bottom right-hand region, you can see it's got 4 cells in it, and each digit in that region therefore contains a 4 to indicate the region's size. If you look in the top right region, there is a 3 there, and that region is indeed of size 3, and every cell in it contains a 3. Now, here's the fillomino rule, which is that no 2 regions of the same size may share an edge. So if you study this grid, you will see that there, if we find all of the 2 regions, which are all dominoes, none of them are orthogonally adjacent to each other. None of them share an edge. One of them touches at a point here, but a point is different from sharing an edge. Nothing shares an edge with something of its own size. Now, here is the tricky rule that Agent's got for this puzzle. A number in a cell with an arrow indicates the distance to the nearest copy of that same number in every indicated direction. Not all arrows are necessarily given. So let's try and understand this by looking at, well, let's look at this bottom cell here. You can see in the finish grid, this cell contains a 4. Now, why does it contain a 4? So that's telling us that the first appearance of a 4 in a northerly direction from this cell is in the 4th cell. So 1, 2, 3 in this cell. And that does seem to be the case in the finished grid, doesn't it? So let's look at another one. This one's got a 2 in it. 2. So that's telling us the first appearance of 2 in an easterly direction is in this cell, where actually it hits another sequence of arrows, which must mean there's a 2 here and a 2 here, I suppose. So yeah, it's a sort of weird indexing type rule. And I don't know what to make of it, but we shall see. Do have a go at the puzzle. I can't tell you how good this puzzle will be for it to, as I say, for it to rise to the top of the pile. But now the way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play Let's Get Cracking. And my first instinct with any puzzles that have arrows like this that index to different cells is to look for cells like this where the arrow is relatively close to the edge of the grid, because that cannot be more than a it can't be more than a 3, because if it was more than a 3 it would be indexing to a cell off the grid. Now what does that mean? Well, okay, it can't be a 1 actually. There you go, as a tiny deduction, because it can't be a 1, because if it's a 1, it says the first 1 seen in a northerly direction is in the next cell to it, thereby immediately breaking the rules of fillomino, which say you can't have two regions of the same size orthogonally adjacent to one another. So this is not a 1. So it's either a 2 or a 3. Now, if it's a 2, let's have a look at that. If it's a 2, that cell is not a 2. These have to both be in regions of size 2. I don't know what that's doing at all. That doesn't seem to be doing anything. Right, let's try 3 instead. So if that's a... Oh, okay, so if that's a 3... Oh, this is probably what it's about. It's going to be about chaining arrows. So if you get a 3 here, you get a 3 here. That gives you a 3 over here. All of these regions would then have to be of size 3, and none of them could... Well, I was going to say none of them can touch each other. Well, certainly none of them can take a digit in the directions of the arrows. So that one would have to go... That one would have to go there, which would have to go... which is pointing down here. So these would have to be in the same region. And now we've got even more cells that can't be 3s. I think we get a 3. We would get a 3 in the corner, but we're the problem with this is we're on a bit of a bifurcation, aren't we? Which I don't like to do. So I'm not going to do that and try and force a solution by reference to sort of a mammoth chain. Yeah, that's not my bag. Let's instead look at that cell. That's pointing. That's close to an edge. And it can't be a 1. We've established that you can never put a 1 on an arrow. And there's a bit of a dearth of arrows that are pointing at edges. These two, maybe it's the complicated looking cells we've got to think about. Both of these have to be 2s and 3s as well, because this one in a westerly direction, if it's pointing towards Disney World from my perspective, this one, well, it can't be more than 3, 1, 2, 3, or it would be off the edge of the grid. So that's a 2 or a 3, and the same is true in a northerly direction from this cell. But we can't do any Sudoku here. I keep wanting to say, well, that's a 2-3 pair, so this has to be at least a 4. But no, this is not Sudoku. Right, okay, but again, I'm wondering again if it's chaining, because I can see if that's a 2. If that's a 2, I get a 2 here, I get a 2 here, I get a 2 here, this one's pointing that way, I get a 2 here, I get a 2, I get a whole massive rectangle of 2s, none of which, yes, and none of which could touch each other, or can have an arrow. So we can't put 2 here, obviously. In fact, there's lots of reasons we can't put 2 here. For a start, it would make a region of size 3 containing 2s, which is most certainly against the rules. So that 2 would have to go upwards, and that 2 would have to go downwards. Oh, no, Simon. Simon, you are a wally. You are a wally. Okay, it's not this. It's not. It is something far simpler than this, which is a relief. Okay, what we actually have to do, I'm feeling embarrassed. Oh dear. Right. We just have to think about the rules of the puzzle. It's so simple and so elegant. This is exactly what you expect from Agent. Therefore, don't do silly things like Simon does. Okay, think about that cell. And once you've thought about that cell for a while, think about that cell for a while, and that will lead you to nirvana. And let me explain why. The consequence of the arrows is if we think about this cell from a fillomino perspective, it's part of a region that has more than one cell in it. Well, where is its second cell? And the point is, it can never be the next cell in the direction of an arrow, because if it was, this cell would have to be a 1, and therefore we know it can't be a 1 because it's breaking the rules of the fillomino. So none of those cells can ever be in a region with this. So if we go to our line tool, we could immediately have done that, and we could immediately have done that. And you can see what effect this is going to have now, because what's this digit? This digit is part of this region, and it's part of this region. So if this was a 2, it would be in a size 3 region. It's not a 2. These must both be 3s with a 3 here. Isn't that lovely? It's so simple. So simple, but it exists. Now there's absolutely button loads of things going on now. But one thing I was thinking that might be sensible straight away to do is to every cell where there's an arrow in it, we could immediately just draw a line in the direction of the arrow like this, because none of these cells can be in the same region as the arrow cell, for the reasons that I was explaining. But we can do better than that here, because these two cells are saying we have to put 3s in the cells that are 3 away. So that one's a 3, that one's a 3, that one's a 3, that one's a 3. Oh, right, this cell's become interesting. But let me just finish my 3ing of the grid. I've not got a 3 in the corner, but I've got a lot of 3s all of a sudden. Now, I don't know how these join up, these 3s. They look like they want to join up. But what we can say is that this is not a 3 now, because if it was, it would only be 2 cells away from this 3, and that breaks the rules. So that's a 2, which means that's a 2, which means we can delineate that. Look, we can delineate that. Oh, yes, okay. It's a lovely rule, this. It's weird, but I can also draw that line segment in, can't I? And I'm going to be able to do that everywhere else as well, because this 2 needs to get a second cell, but it can never get it from here. Because if it, and that would apply if we were miles away from each other. If we had an 8 here and an 8 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that is 8 apart. But let's imagine there was an arrow in this cell pointing at this 8. Well, we couldn't make that an 8 then, because that would imply that this saw its first 8 in the 7th cell. So what we can always do, whenever we have an arrow pointing at another cell, we can not only sort of draw the delineator like that, we can also go to the cell that it's pointing at and draw a delineator like that. Like that. What gave us this 3? Oh, we've already got the delineator in there. That must be forced, because again, if this was a 3, then the first 3 seen in a northerly direction is only 2 away, not 3 away, so that would be wrong. So we can do that. That's going to join to that, I can now see. I can do that. Oh, there's loads of stuff going on now. Once you get the start, it really starts to crack, doesn't it? Because look, there's 2 things I've seen. This one and this one are interesting. Right, if this 3 goes into this cell, it's broken, because then this 3 is seeing its first 3 only 2 cells away, which is expressly what that rule is not allowing, or the arrow is not saying. So we must do that. Whoopsie. Which means this 3 region at the top is sort of forced to be like this. But also for this one, look, if this was a 3, 1, 2, 3, it's putting a 3 here, and we'd have 2 3 regions orthogonally adjacent, which is against the rule of fillomino. So actually I can do that, 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 and that. Nori nori. Now, hang on. I can do that. I can do... I don't know what else I can do. Oh, I do. This can't be the way that this 2 extends, because if that was a 2, it would be saying this cell needed to be a 2, and it's most certainly a 3. So that doesn't work. So that must be the 2. That gives us another domino. It means that cell there now can't be... Right, that cell's interesting. It can't be a 1, because that would be saying this cell's a 1, and it's not. It can't be a 2, because then this would be a 2 region next to another 2 region. It can't be a 3, because that would put a 3... Oh no, it can be a 3. No, in fact it absolutely is a 3, isn't it? That's the point. For some reason I thought it couldn't be a 3 when there was a 3 here, but it absolutely can be. So if it's a 3... Oh no, it can't. Actually, it can't be a 3. I've changed my mind about that, because if it's a 3... It can't take this cell, so it would be those 3 cells, but then this would be a 1, and that would put a 1 here, which is against the rule, so it's not a 3. So this is quite a big number. It's at least 1, 2, 3, it's at least a 4. But after 4, look, it can be just about anything. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, which probably doesn't deserve a pencil mark. Let's check this cell. Right, this cell is going to do damage, isn't it? So it can't be a 1, because that would put 2 1s together. If it's a 2, this cell is a 2. Not sure what that does to this cell. Probably something naughty. If it's a 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, can you have... Oh no, it can't be a... I was just wondering if you could have arrows that looked at each other with the same number, but I think you can. But actually this can't be a 3, because that's a 3, and it would be in a region next to another 3 region. So this is either 2, or 4, or 5. Can't be more than 5, it'll disappear off the edge. So this cell, which can't be 1, is either 2... Right, so this can't be 3, because that would put a 3 there. So this is 2... Oh no, this one's restricted. Okay, this can't be... Not only can it not be 3, but if it was 4, it would be saying this digit has to be a 4, which it's not. 5, 6. So the only thing it can be is a 7. That's 2 or 7. And if it's a 7, that would be a 7, because you couldn't fit 7 cells into those cells. So this would be a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, that does work. 7. It has... Oh no, I don't think there's room for it to be a 7. Oh, yeah, the simple way of seeing why this cell is not a 7 is to think about... I don't know what this digit is, but I do know it's at least a 2-cell region, which means it's sort of coming down here, isn't it? And it's not a 7. So if... Oh no, hang on, I'm wrong. I just realised I can make this 7 by making it a C shape. Oh, bobbins. Right, sorry. I'm missing tricks here, left, right and centre. Yeah, I was going to say it can't be a 7 because it would run out of room there, forgetting that it's still got 3 cells at the top of the grid that it could go into. So, okay, let's try that cell then, because that is quite a big number actually. Oh, this is going to be why it's 7. Right. Okay, let's try this number, because this can't be 1. That would put a 1 here and put 2 adjacent regions size 1 together. It's not a 2 because it's next to a 2 region. It's not a 3 because it's next to a 3 region. So it's at least a 4, which means that if it was a 4, there would be a 4 here. But if it was a 5, there would be a 5 here. So it's 4, 5, 6, or our favourite candidate, 7. Now, it's at least 4, so it's going to go round the corner there, like this. And it hits that cell. So that cell is a 4, 5, 6, or 7. Oh, that's... Oh, that's beautiful. Good grief. Right. Wow. Well, it's not. That's not 7 anymore, I've suddenly realised. Because... let me just work. I might be able to just tell you what this is. I'm not sure if I can. I can tell you it's not 6 and it's not 7. And the reason it's not 6 or 7 is, let me show you. If I put 6 in here, where does this region go? Well, it has to go to there. But then this is a 6, and it's saying the first 6 seen in a southerly direction is 6 cells away, and it wouldn't be. It would see 1 2 cells away, which is far too early. So we'd have premature seeage of the 6 here, and we don't want to have that. So that's not 6, and for the same reason it's not 7. So this is 4 or 5. Therefore this is 4 or 5. 2, 3. So this, if this is a 4, this is a 4. If this is a 5, this is a 5. There is no way of pencil marking that in any way that's going to make any sense. No. Oh, I thought I could do something along there, but I've got exactly the same problem. This is a 4, this is a 5, but I don't really know what to do with that knowledge. Right, okay. So if this is a 5, that's a 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, this would be a 5. Which is absolutely fine. That's in the sort of great floodplains of white down in the southerly area of the grid. And that's going to be fine. Okay, so now, as so often with puzzles where you've not done this type of puzzle before, I am totally flummoxed as to where I'm meant to look now. What about if that's not a 5? What about if that stops then? What is that then? That can't be a 2 because it would hit this 2, and it can't be a 3, so it would be at least a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is certainly of some size. Oh no, hang on. Actually it's not a 4, is it? Because if that's a 4, we get problems. Because I have to make that a 4, and now what do I make this? I can't make this a 4, or this should have been a 3, but it would be indexing a 4, and that's a paradox too far. So if this is a 4, this has to be a 1, but that puts a 1 there and breaks the puzzle. So this is not 4. So actually, whether this extends or not into this cell, that cell is at least a 5, and I will award it a pencil mark. It can't be a 9. Hang on, how big can it be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It can be a 7. That's the most that this can be. Oh, but isn't that going to give me a problem? Well, it can't be. I think it's got to be a 5. Because if it's a 6 or a 7, where does it go? It's not part of this, and it's not part of that, and it can't bump into that. So it's trapped in. Yeah, so that is a 5. But the weird thing about that is, I still don't know whether it joins up to this or not. Because it could be a 5 like that, or a 5 like that. Or no, okay, it can't be a 5 joining up to this. Because that's 6. Alright, so this is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 5. Therefore we can chop that off, can't we? Okay, so this is a region. But it could grow. Right, so maybe, am I meant to think about this cell? I don't really like the look of this cell. This cell looks like it can be just about anything. There's a whole sea of white to its right. It can be 2. It can't be 3. If it was 4, 1, 2, 3, that would be a 4. That's fine, I think. Oh no, hang on, 1, 2, 3, that would be a 4. So that would be a 4. So you get like a run of 4s. But I think because the arrows are in the same direction, there's no problem with that. And it could be a 5, it could be a 6, and it can be anything. That digit's not under pressure. Oh, hang on, let's come back to this digit, because we've worked out this can't be a 7. No, it can't be a 7, it's a 4 or a 5. So that's a 2, which means that's a 2. We can delineate this. Oh, yeah, this is not a 2 now, so this is a 4 or a 5. But which direction does it go in? I don't know. Oh, bobbins. Okay, sorry. I was hopeful then. Okie dokie. So instead of that, we shall look at this one. That one can't be a 3. Oh, it can't be a 2, actually. Oh, see, that's so weird. That's a 4. It just did not occur to me that that was under any pressure at all, but it is. Oh, goodness me. Right. Let's look at this digit. It can't be a 1. No arrow can have a 1 on it. It can't be a 2, because then that should be a 2. It can't be a 3, or it's in a region of size 3 next to another region of size 3. And it can't be a 5, because then that would have to be a 5, and it's a 3. So it's got to be a 4. That's the only thing it can actually be, which means that's a 4. What does that mean? Oh, I see. Oh, I see. That's beautiful. This is beautiful logic. Right. That's become a 4. Now, what we can immediately do then is that marking, because obviously we can't put 4 here, or this clue would be wrong, or the arrow would be wrong. Now, that pushes this 4 down a little bit, but that really matters for this clue, which now must be a 4, because if it was a 5, it would be indexing that cell which doesn't contain a 5. So this is a 4, this is a 4, so the 4, we get a 4 region at the top, like that, which gives us a 4 here, which we can mark the left side of, the westerly side of. We get a 5 here, which we already knew about. But that means we can now extend this 5, and we can't go into that, or it would be a size 6. So the 5 gets finished. Good grief. Oh, and of course. Well, now this region here can't be a size 5, because it will clash with its friend. So that's a size 4 region, which can't hit this, or that's a size 5 region, so it goes there. Oh, we're cooking with gas all of a sudden now. This 4... can't take... Oh, hang on. Wow! It's all gone mad. But this cell has to be a 1 now, because it can't be a 4, or there'll be 2 4 regions connected. And that means that this 4 has to sort of come along the top of the grid, I think. 4, 4. I don't know if we can... Well, that 2's got to be finished, so we can do that. Do we know where this 4 goes next? Probably, but I don't know how to do that immediately. Oh, this 4 can't go north, because then it would connect to another 4 region, so that's got to stay where it is. This 2's got to come down here, so that's a 2. I wanted to say that's not a 3, therefore. Don't do Sudoku in this puzzle. Right. So, alright, so what do we do now? There's probably an obvious place to look here, and I don't know what it is. That cell can't be a 2. Oh, okay, that's a big number. This can't be a 2, because it would put a 2 there, next to another 2 region. And it can't be a 3, and it can't be a 4, it's already next to that. And if it was a 5, it would be next to this. This is at least a 6, believe it or not. Whoa. 6, 7, 8, or 9. So this is coming, right, this is coming down that little passageway. Because neither of these can be a high number. Oh, and that means the 4 here has to go this way. So that's all forced. Which means this... Oh, that's beautiful. Good grief. Right. I know what this is now. Because if this was a 3, it would put a 3 here, and this cell would, this arrow would be wrong. So that's got to be a 2. That's got to be a 2. It feels like this has got to be a big number now as well. Let me just think about that digit actually. It's not a 1 because it's an arrow cell. If it was a 2, it would connect to this domino, and that's not allowed. It's already connected to a 3, so it's not that. It's already connected to a 4, so it's not that. So it is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 5 because anything else would take it off the edge of the grid. So that's a 5. That's a 5. Make sure the 5 comes no nearer because that would be too naughty. That's a 5. This is a 2. I've just noticed I've got an arrow pointing at that, so that's... Oh! Oh, it's... Right. That's so... Well, I missed it, but it's still beautiful. Look what that happens to this now. So this is at least size 6, but we've got to make enough room for this 5 to get out. So if this hit the bottom row of the grid, the 5 has no room. So this is once this 2 goes in, this is capped out. It can't be greater than 6, or this 5 wouldn't work. So this is all completely forced. And we can do this, and this, and this, and that's now got to be a 3. Hang on, we can put our 6s in here, and that's going to give us another 6 because of this arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And therefore we can put in that little line segment. We can put in a 3 here because this has to grow. We can put in a 2 here. The 5 now has to grow, so that's got to grow. The 4 now has to grow, so it... Oh, right, so this 4 has... Is this a 1 then? Is that... Oh no, hang on, that can't be a 4 either. Right, this... I think this has to be a 2, this domino, because it can't have a 4 in it. It would connect 2 4 regions together. So it sits on its own and it can't be 2 1s without connecting 2 1s together. So that's a 2 region. And this 4, right, I can get one more 4 here. It's possible I think this is a 4. Oh, but that could be a 1. It can't be a 5, this, because that's going to break this 5 clue. Oh, so what's this 3 doing now? I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what it's doing. Okay. Oh, there's a 4 clue here I've not used. 1, 2, oh, that's a 4. So that's a 2. Good grief. So that 4's finished. What's this cell then? Right, this cell looks like the one we've got to focus on. This can't be, it's on an arrow, so it's not a 1, it's not a 2. If it's a 3, how does that, no, well hang on, it can't be a 3 because that's become a 3 now. So this is another of these big numbers, I think. It can't be 3 because it sees a 3 too early. It can't be 4, it sees a 4. So it's at least a 5, I want to say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5, 6, or 7. It's probably 5, isn't it? It's probably going to connect there. Oh, here's an important point. This being 5, however this gets out, it's taking this cell. It must take those cells. Because it can, even if it crams itself into the top right of the grid, it's always getting down to at least here, and therefore this 3 must take this cell, which finishes it off. I was going to say it finishes the 4 off, but actually the 4 seems to be very irritating and want to go in 2 different directions at the same time. Oh, I've not filled in my yellow on my 4 region there, which is remiss of me. Right, so probably what I've not done now is to pick up another arrow cell. So let's check which arrow cells I've not used. 5. Oh no, I have put that one in. 6. Yeah, I've put that one in. 2. Okay, so I must have to do something with these other ones. I say that because without great confidence that is what I've got to do. But let's try and think about these. So this cell, it's an arrow cell, so it's at least a 2. That would put a 2 here. Oh, okay, if it's a 3, it puts a 3 there, and that's useful, look. That would complete this 3 region. It can't be a 4 or a 5, because they've got 3s in them. It can be a 6, believe it or not. 1, 2, 3, 4, it can be a 6, yeah. So it's 2, 3, or 6. I'm just trying to see if there's some way I can... Alright, one thing I can do actually now is to get rid of a 5 from here. Because if that's a 5, it's landing on this cell. And that would need to be a 5, and it doesn't seem to be able to. So this is 6 or 7, which means either this is a 6 or this is a 7. Well, I'm very tempted to say this is probably... Oh, well actually if that's a 6, that can't be a 6 then. What's this one? This one is at least a 2 again, isn't it? If it's a 2, that puts a 2 here. That moves 2 out of this one. That might be possible. If this is a 3, it puts a 3 here, which again might be possible. I'm not sure. What about if it's a 4, then it makes that shape. So it can be a 4. Okay, but then it can't be anything, can it? 1, 2, 3, 4. It can't be 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 because none of those digits appear up there. So this is 2, 3, or 4. Oh, hang on. How can that be 7 now? It's not got 7, there's no room for it. It can only be a 6, and it can only just fit in when it's size 6, so that's forced. Aha! We have you now. So there we go. We've got that region is forced. Those all become 6. This 5 has got to drop down here. I'm not sure what that means. This 6, I suppose I need to index something for. Oh, this is not 6 now, because it would be too early. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need it to arrive exactly here. This 6. Right, which allows us to do that pencil mark. Okay. Now this 6 can't quite fit into the bottom right of the grid, so it's got to take that cell. So it's probably joining up with this one, is it? This one's got to grow quite a lot. These probably fit together, but I'm not sure they necessarily... Oh no, okay, if this one crams itself into the bottom right... Yeah, that's probably okay for that other one. Right, let's check this clue. So if this is 2, that forces this... So yeah, if this is 2, that forces this to be 3, which completes this. Puts a 5 here, puts a 6 here. Probably forces the 6s to connect. I can't put 6s into those cells, and I can't put 5s into those cells because of the arrows. Oh, so maybe... Can we force this 5 down here a bit, is what I'm wondering. This 5, if it comes this way only... Oh no, it can just do a little ring like that, can't it? And then this would be a 1. Alright, let's try that with 6s. If the 6s can't go into these cells, it does look actually like to me like these two have to connect with each other. How does that work if... I'm not sure. Let me just have a look at this. So if we try and keep these apart, So I'm just going to see whether I've got enough room for this 6 to wend its way around this white section of the grid without being part of this green region. Because we can't go into those cells because of this 6 arrow. So it looks quite tricky. We could take those 4 cells. We could take this cell. No, we're going to block the 5 in. We're going to block the 5 in. This doesn't work. Right, this is going to be important. So how does this 6 grow is the question. If we're not going to allow it to touch green, it can take those. It can't touch green, so it can't take these 2, so it's got to take that one. And now where do we go next? Now this 5 can't come here because of the 5 arrow. So it has to come down here. It has to do that. In fact, it has to do that. But now this 6 must connect with green. So actually we can stay right at ab initio. This is green. Right, and that's very interesting, because now to connect greens together, we've only got 3 more cells to play with, so we're going to have to do it with some sort of alacrity, aren't we? We can't sort of muck about here. We've actually got to connect these together. So what I'm thinking is none of those can be 6, because if we try and make this a 6, we've only got 2 cells left to connect to this one, and we can't do it. So that allows us to do this, which is it's totally and utterly underwhelming. Oh, you rotten thing. Okay. Okay, all right, I know what we can do here. What we can do is we can say that the 6 must take that cell, I think. And that's because of this clue. This clue needs to have some purpose. It's going to put a digit into this cell, or this cell that is not a 6. So how does this connect to this if it can't do that? And it can't do that for the reasons I've just explained. Well, that means it's going to have to take this cell, because if it doesn't, it simply cannot join here at all. So it must connect that, and that's pushed our 5, look. So our 5 now comes down 1, which pushes our 3 down 1. So the 3 is finished. Oh, this is lovely. It's just beautiful. It's so elegant, because now this cell's under pressure. That can't be 3 anymore, because now this has become a 5. So that's a 2. That's a 2. That's pushing. That means the 6. Well, it forces the 6. The 6 has to do that. That's the only way it can close. So all of a sudden, we've actually we've greenified our grid. I'm being very eco-friendly today. We've got a 2 here which must grow, so that's got to be a 2. We've got a 5 here that must grow. So everything's getting sorted out in the bottom. Oh yeah, what's this cell now? That's got to be a 4, because none of these digits are available to be 2 or 3 anymore. So that's 4, that's 4. That means that's going to be a 1 in order to prevent it from being a nothing. Okay, I don't quite know what that means here. Do we know how this 5... Well, this 5 can't come to this cell because of this arrow. So this 5 has to come down. Oh, I see. That's clever as well. So just because this 5 has to extend down, it pens the 2 in and forces that. And that means that cell's only got the option of being a 1. So we get a 1 there, a 2 here. That forces the 5 down, look. So the 5 region gets extended. And we've just got to deal with the bottom row, which is going to have to be replete with 4s. We're going to have to make these 4s. And 1 more cell of 4. Okay. All right, so how are we going to extend our 4-age is the question. It's a binary choice. If we make this 4, how do we fill this domino? And there's no way, because it's already touching a 2 domino. So we'd have to make it double 1, and that's not allowed. So we have to put the 4 there in the middle, which makes those 2 cells a double 1 pair. And now we can do this, and do this, and do that. And I think we have solved the... Oh, bobbins, that doesn't look quite right. Oh, okay. No. All right. No, it's not fair for me to expect Sven's software to understand that this is not a Sudoku. I think the software is trying to say, have I got one of each digit in every row and column? And I most certainly do not. So in fact, yes, it's just highlighting this cell as possibly being correct. Everything else is wrong. That is a beautiful puzzle, though. It's so clever. It's just a little tiny twist on a normal rule set, and from that, Agents built a puzzle that's an absolute delight from start to finish. I hope you had a go. I wonder how many people cottoned onto this instantly, which I'm ashamed to say I didn't. But from there, it flows very nicely indeed, doesn't it? It's just gorgeous. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I do enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.